From Creamer Media in Johannesburg, this is the Real Economy Report. Our top stories this week. We talk to a former astronaut about encouraging kids to study maths and science. Calls are made for a paradigm shift to a future of recycling. And ports operator to invest billions on expansion plans. How do you encourage children to study maths and science? A retired American astronaut has the answer. Keith Campbell reports.
Former U.S. astronaut Jeffrey Hoffman was recently in South Africa to promote the use of astronomy as a way of encouraging especially high school students to study maths and science. He explains.
The very difficult time for students is when they get to be 12, 13 years old. Puberty is coming on, the hormones are flowing, and people are interested in lots of other things. And statistically, we find that's when a lot of students who may have been interested in science when they were in primary school, but they go off in other directions. And the problem is, if you don't continue to study science and maths through high school, then when you get to university, it's pretty hopeless. You're never going to catch up. And that's when you can actually capture students' interest, because there are actually many things that they can do in astronomy, space science. I mean, we sponsor projects for students to send up balloons, model rockets. These days it's even possible for students to build these little cube satellites, 10 centimeters on a side. And mostly this is done in universities, but as the technology becomes more sophisticated, it's something that even high school students can do. The ability to reach out and touch space, so to speak, is incredibly exciting and motivating for a lot of students, and keeps them connected with science and excited about science and math. And these are then the people who will go on, not necessarily to become professional astronomers, but in university they'll study other sciences, math and engineering, and form the technical workforce that we need for a modern society.
Touchstone Resources Director Dr. Anthony Turton has called for a paradigm shift to a future of recycling. Dennis Ndaba compiled this report.
We need a simple statement from the highest authority in the country, that would be the President. And what we'd like the President to say is simply that recycling is our future. 1.7 is the target by 2035. Very simple statement. What that will then do is it will start unlocking the kind of resources that we need, because we need human capital. The significant thing is, when you get to the edge of a paradigm, the logic that holds the paradigm together, a paradigm is a scaffolding that links together intellectual ideas in a framework. So think of it that way. When you reach the end of your paradigm, the challenge now is that the logic on which that paradigm is based reverts to zero. Now, in the case of South Africa, our paradigm up until now has been rapid economic growth based on very, very cheap water and very, very cheap electricity. That's been the paradigm. And in fact, in the water management space, the paradigm has been based on trapping stream flow, trapping water in rivers. But if you look very carefully now, we've only got a very low conversion of rainfall to runoff. Only about 5% of our water that comes out of the sky as rain ends up as water in the river. And if you take the Orange River Basin, for example, as our most important river basin, we've trapped 2.7 times more water than flows in the river on an average year. So we've been very successful at trapping stream flow, and that's been our paradigm, trapping stream flow, building dams. We now have to start managing evaporation losses. If we can trap the 95% that we're losing, that's the new paradigm. And now part of that new paradigm is managing water as a flux.
Transnet Port Terminal's acting CEO, Carl Sokichwa, provides details of its upcoming expansion plans.
Ports operator Transnet Port Terminals plans to spend about 15 billion rand in capital expenditure on upgrading and expanding its port terminals over the next 5 years.
We have quite an extensive 5-year investment program. If I can just share with you, at one of our terminals in Richards Bay, the plan there is to invest in excess of 3 billion rands in new equipment, new cranes, in infrastructure. And really the plan for us, our capital investment plans, are about the replacement of the current infrastructure platform and the current equipment that we have, and also about expansion as well, in creating capacity ahead of demand so that we can continue to support economic growth and make sure that that capacity, as I've indicated, is in place and is well run within the business.
Container capacity at the South African ports will increase to 6.26 million TEUs by 2015, up from the current 4.56 million TEU capacity. Further capacity expansions up to 2030 are also being planned.
That's Creamer Media's Real Economy Report. Join us again next week for more news and insight into South Africa's real economy.